Hello class, we're about to start Unit 4 decimals. We have Section A, adding and subtracting decimals. To add or subtract decimals, just line up the decimal points. You can fill in X's zeros to even up the numbers as needed. Okay, now, what we're going to do is stack these numbers on top of each other, and if one is longer than the other, then we can add zeros to make them the same length. And I'm talking about longer than the other behind the decimal. So, we have 2.54 plus 14.6. So we add a zero after the 6. So now we have 4. 5 plus 1 is 11. Bring down your 1. Bring down your decimal. Carry your 1. 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 4 is 7. And then bring down your 1. So your answer here is 17.14. Now we have 8 minus 3.27. So we have 8. Now remember, a whole number is always assumed to have a decimal at the end of it. So it would be minus 3.27. So we will add 2 zeros here. Now we can subtract. We know we cannot take 7 from 0. And we can't take it from this other 0. So we'll go to this 8 and make it 7. So then, since we borrow 1 from the 8, this 0 will become 10. And we'll borrow 1 from that to make it 9. And this last 0 will be 10. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 2 is 7. Bring down our decimal. And 7 minus 3 is 4. So our answer here is 4.73. Now we come here to section B, multiplying decimals. To multiply decimals, first multiply while ignoring the decimal points. Then place the decimal point in the final answer so that the number of decimal places in a product is equal to the sum of numbers of decimal places in the factors. Okay, now, let's take a look. This is what those directions actually mean. You see we have 1.2 and 0.3. Let's change that to 12 times 3. So we got rid of the decimals. Then we multiply them. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 1 is 3. Now we count how many digits we have behind the decimals and the factors. And we know the factors are the numbers that's multiplying to each other. So we have 1 digit here, another digit here, for a total of 2 digits. So that means this final answer must have 2 digits behind the decimal. So we'll put our decimal point here and a 0 in front, and we're done. Now, for this second example, this is really 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2. So if we drop the decimal, this would be 2 times 2 times 2, which would give us 8. Now we have to count how many digits we have behind the decimal. Now we have 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal. So what we need to do here is make sure we have 3 digits behind the decimal at the end. So remember, 8 assumes to have a decimal at the end, so we'll move it 1, 2, 3 places. So our answer here would be 0.008. That would be our final answer. Now, it says a note about decimal multiplication. While you should understand the decimal placement in the multiplication process, for large multiplication problems, we will use a calculator as needed. Dividing decimals. To divide decimals, first move the decimal points in both numbers to the right until the divisor becomes a whole number. Then divide, keeping the decimal point and the answer lined up with the decimal point in the dividend. Okay, now, watch this. We have 0.024 divided by 0.6. So first, we'll rewrite this in the standard way that we write division. Okay, now, we cannot have a decimal on the outside of this division bar. So we'll move this decimal until it becomes a whole number. It does here, or I should say an integer. So then this becomes 6, and we have what we do here, we have to do here as well. So this will end up being 6 into 0.24. Then we'll bring up our decimal. So we'll say 6 goes into 0 0 times. 6 goes into 2 0 times, and 6 goes into 24 4 times. So 4 times 6 is 24. There's no remainder. So our final answer is 0.04. Now we go here, it's basically the same setup. We add 0.6 into 0.24. We'll move the decimal one place to the right. Move this decimal one place to the right. So this will give us 6 into 2.4. And we'll bring up our decimal. 6 goes into 2 0 times. 6 goes into 24 4 times. 4 times 6 is 24. There's no remainder. So our final answer is 0.4. Now, a note about decimal division. While you should understand the decimal placement in the division process, for large division problems, we will use a calculator as needed. Now, one quick thing before we go on to the next problem. There was a little error here in the course pack. Oh, okay. Actually, it wasn't an error. Okay. I thought I saw something, but I did. Okay, so we could go ahead to section D. It says applications of decimal arithmetic. Find the average price of gasoline for the month shown below. Okay, so now these are the 4 weeks of the month. This is the average price. So what we have to do is find the average of these prices. So we'll take the average. The average is basically, you're supposed to add all of these numbers. Now we can put the dollar signs in at the end of the problem. And divide by how many numbers you're adding, which is 4. Now, we're going to use a calculator. So I'll just put the calculator here. So we can add all of these values up. So we add 3.45 plus 3.71 plus 3.74 plus 3. Okay, let me try that again. It's 3.45 plus 3.74 plus 3.83 plus 3.79. Okay, so our numerator would be 14.84 or 14.81 divided by 4. Now we need to divide this out. So we'll take 14.81 divided by 4. And that gives us 3.7025. Now we know in our money system, we typically only go 2 places behind the decimal. So the average is about $3.70 for this month. And I do these squiggly lines here to show that it's an approximation. Okay, now it says Joe drove 300 miles and his car used 12.5 gallons of gas. Find the fuel efficiency for his vehicle in miles per gallon. So we would take miles, which is 300 miles. The word per means division, so we'll put the division or fraction bar, and then the gallons would be 12.5. So now we'll take this calculator and take 300 divided by 12.5. And we have 24. So our final answer here will be 24 miles per gallon. Now we scroll here to section E, change it between fraction and decimal forms. To change a decimal to a fraction, use the place value to determine the denominator, then reduce to simplest form. Example, find the simplest form fraction or mixed number for each decimal. Okay, we have 0.6. Now what we do when we have a decimal, we go to the last place value of that decimal. The last digit of that decimal, which here is 6, is in the tenths place. So that means that the denominator would be 10. your numerator would be this number without the decimal. So that would be 6/10. And now we can simplify that by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2. So it would be 3/5. Now we come here. Now this is what I would suggest you do. When you have a number in front of the decimal, don't worry about that number. Just imagine in your head that it's a 0. Let's look here at this last digit here. This last digit here is in the hundreds place. So we'll put 100 as our denominator. Now our numerator would be this without the decimal. And I said, remember, disregard the digit in front of the decimal. So this would be 59/100. The digit in front of the decimal becomes your whole number. So your final answer would be 259/100. Okay, now it says to change a fraction to a decimal, divide the numerator by the denominator. Some decimal forms will terminate in while others will have a repeating digit or repeating block of digits. Write the decimal form for each fraction. Okay, so now we have 3 and 8/11. For right now, we're going to disregard this 3. Let's concentrate on the 8/11. So we'll take 11 into 8. We'll put a decimal. I usually go about 2 decimal places out to start. So we bring our decimal up. 11 goes into 8 0 times. 11 goes into 80 7 times. So we add 80 minus 77, which is 3. Bring down your 0. 11 goes into 30 twice. 2 times 11 is 22. And we have 8. We add a 0 here and we have 80. Now 80 is where we started at. So that'll be another 7 and another 2. So we have a repeating decimal. So our final answer would be 3. We'll take this 3, the number in front of the fraction. That'll be 3, then your decimal. And then the number behind the decimal will go here. And remember, this was a repeating decimal. So your final answer would be 3.72 repeating. Now we have 3 7s. It says round answer to the nearest thousand. So that means we must go 4 decimal places. We must go 4 decimal places to see if we round the thousands place up 1 or leave it the same. Okay, 7 goes into 3 0 times. 7 goes into 30 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. 30 minus 28 is 2. Bring down your 0. 7 goes into 20 twice. 2 times 7 is 14. 20 minus 14 is 7. Bring down your 0. 7 goes into, 20 minus 14 is 6, not 7. So this should make that 60. 7 goes into 60 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56. Bring down your 4. Bring down your 0. 7 goes into 45 times. Now, we have enough digits here, so now we can round. It would be approximately 0.429. Because remember, this 4th digit here determines whether we round up or leave the 3rd digit the same. Since it's 5 to 9, we round up by adding 1. So this is our final answer. Now we go to section F. Section F, evaluating expressions and solving equations. Now we have number 1 here. It says the formula for the area of a triangle is area is equal to 1/2 times the base times the height. Okay, so now we're going to apply this formula here. It says find the area of the triangle below. So it'll be the area is equal to 1/2 times the base is 7 and the height is 2.1. Now we could just put this in our calculator. Remember, we'll put this over 1. So we could do 7 times 2.1, and that gives us 14.7 all over 2. So we'll take 14.7 divided by 2, and that gives us 7.35. And it'll be 7.35 square meters, because we multiplied meters with meters, and this will be our final answer.